It's time for our look back at our top stories of the week. For the first time, we are getting a look at what led up to the deadly shooting of a New Orleans bounce artist, Charlie Wap. He was killed last year and his killer was recently sentenced to prison. As Alyssa Curtis explains, Wap's family doesn't feel like justice was served.
Oh my goodness. What is there not to tell? Loving, joker, giving, very, very, very giving.
Bounce artist Charlie Diwali, better known as Charlie Wap, is remembered kindly by those who loved him the most. But now his love is best felt through memories, stories, and family.
It was very shocking. For me, I knew something was wrong the moment my phone started ringing, because my phone never rings.
In March of last year, he was shot and killed by Jamiron Barnes. According to family, Barnes was friends with one of Wap's kids. They say Wap and Barnes had been arguing.
It was heart-wrenching because this isn't somebody, it wasn't a stranger.
Now, video WWL Louisiana has obtained shows what happened in the moments leading up to the fatal shooting. The two can be heard arguing, Wap at times yelling. He tells Barnes to stop playing with him. Then, after a few minutes, Wap grabs Barnes by the neck and holds him down. He holds him over the railing of the stairs before a third man intervenes. Wap lets go and the fight seemingly simmers down a bit, then gunshots. Wap starts running away, but Barnes chases him down the block and keeps firing, several times in the back.
I just feel like it didn't have to get to that point of he's no longer here with us. So he'll never get to see, his kids again. He'll never get to see grandkids, future grandkids. He'll never get to witness any of that because of a heinous act of violence.
Barnes was initially charged with second-degree murder, but all parties agreed to lower it to manslaughter. He was also charged with obstruction of justice and felon in possession of a firearm. Friday, Barnes was sentenced to 10 years for the manslaughter charge and 15 each for the two others. He'll only have to serve 7.5 before he can be eligible for parole, though. It's a sentence Wap's family is distraught over.
They had a fist fight, and that young man presented a weapon. So it wasn't an equal fight at all. But, the Louisiana judicial system, I wouldn't put my money on it at all.
While they say it'll never make sense, they say they'll keep his memory alive day by day. Alyssa Curtis, WWL Louisiana.
Next time you step inside the Superdome, expect some changes. The stadium renovation project, which was 8 years in the making, is designed as an experience for the everyday fan. Winston Reed gives us a look inside the dome.
The Superdome renovation project focuses on not just enhancing the fan experience from the seats, but at the concession stands, the bars, the restrooms, and everywhere in between.
It's pretty impressive for a 50-year-old building.
According to Superdome media manager Mike Haas, the perfect game day experience for fans is not just about the destination, but the journey. A stadium project by the Superdome launched almost a decade ago focuses on an open floor plan that helps the flow of foot traffic.
You're able to get people into their seats faster and move around the building once you're at your seat. It's not just about in and out. But I want to get to a concession, I want to get to the restroom, I want to get to a market, I want to do whatever.
Walls torn down, ceilings gutted, and a streamlined escalator system for general admission seating.
This is 200. You used to have a floor to 300, floor to 400, up to 500 and above. All of that was removed to create these atriums where you could put escalators from 2 to 5, 1 to 2. There's another escalator from 5 to 650. So 3 escalators from the ground to the top of the building in 3 minutes.
It's a design built not just for the customer looking for luxury in the 70-yard clubhouse, but the everyday fan. With parts of the terraces now shaven, expect a better view if you score tickets in the corner seats.
We have the field level suites, and man, they're impressive. But for the most part, we have changed the way Joe Smith in the 100 level or the 200 level or the 400 level in the corners get to view the game. They've never seen. Look at these video boards. They couldn't be bigger.
The corner seats may just be the best seats in the house. The view from here is amazing. You can see the entire dome right from where I'm standing. Now, the Superdome has already put the renovations to the test. Zach Bryan, he was here over the summer with 60,000 fans. Taylor Swift, she's going to be here in the fall. And of course, Super Bowl 59, New Orleans is hosting that game here in the Superdome. Reporting from the Superdome, Winston Reed, WWL, Louisiana.
Getting stuck at a railroad crossing is frustrating, and it's even worse when there's not even a train on the tracks. That's what folks who use a crossing in Jefferson Parish are dealing with because of a defective crossing signal. Our Amelia Strahan went to check out the problem and talk to parish leaders about it.
Dozens of cars stuck, but no train in sight. It's a common scene on Metairie Road.
It blocks up all the side streets and, can't get into any of the businesses as well.
And train or no train, when these bars go down, drivers like Richard Bocart can expect a 10 to 15 minute wait.
Usually everybody just waits for them to go up and down. As you can see, you can't really slide around like you normally would.
For over a week, the safety bars at the heavily trafficked railroad crossing have been malfunctioning, going up, then back down sporadically, causing quite the traffic jam. According to Jefferson Parish Councilwoman at Large Jennifer Van Branken, Norfolk Southern crews have been working to identify the problem since last week.
Last Thursday, they fixed one part that was malfunctioning. Yesterday, it seems like they fixed another part that was malfunctioning, and I'm not sure what it is today.
And we're not sure what it was either. By the time we left Metairie Road on Friday, traffic appeared to be moving again, but crews were still on the tracks. We reached out to Norfolk Southern for an update, but we haven't heard back from them yet.
Mechanical stuff breaks, and so you do have to sometimes identify what it is and fix it and get it back in order, so be patient.
Until the problem is solved, Van Branken reminds drivers how dangerous driving around the safety bars can be.
You never know when there is a train coming, and so I just really caution, go another way, don't risk it.
In Metairie, Amelia Strahan, WWL, Louisiana.
For the first time in years, crime is down in New Orleans East. Data shows the East hasn't seen crime this low since 2019. As Eleanor Tabone explains, it's all being credited to community engagement and policing.
I live in New Orleans East. I've been living in New Orleans East since 1993.
Aaron White calls New Orleans East home, and that's exactly why he decided to open Patio 17 on Bullitt Avenue 5 months ago.
We don't get the same opportunities and dollars as downtown CBD.
What we're seeing in the 7th Police District, commonly referred to as New Orleans East, is a reduction in overall crime by 28%.
According to Metropolitan Crime Commission data, violent crime numbers in New Orleans East haven't been this low since 2019. NOPD Captain Wayne DeLarge is at the helm of the 7th District. He witnesses the first-hand impact of crime reduction.
Homicides, armed robberies, non-fatal shootings and carjackings, we're seeing an overall reduction of 38%.
NOPD says there have been 41 non-fatal shooting victims in the East so far this year, compared to 95 this time in 2023. Captain DeLarge says they've also reduced response times by 5 minutes.
That means less retaliations, right? Less families that are feuding, less individuals that are feuding.
Such a moment in history right now that community can be proud of.
Councilman Oliver Thomas, a relentless advocate in transforming New Orleans East's image, says the area is shedding its negative stereotype thanks to strong community engagement and a visible police presence.
The community's coming together. They came together to rebrand that community and to tell the rest of this region that not only does New Orleans East matter, but it's a great place to live and work and do business.
People are very excited, whereas before they may have feared coming to activities.
Tangi Wall with New Orleans East Matters has lived in the East for 35 years. She agrees with Councilman Thomas that strides have been made, but says the work needs to continue to completely rid the East of its troubled past.
I think that continued engagement, participating in activities that involve the community at large, providing activities for youth, will help this problem.
The narrative is New Orleans East is crime, and I can attest that that's not the truth.
As for Aaron, he says he chose to be part of the solution, opening a business in an area lacking development.
People have to understand that New Orleans East is a safe place and is thriving, a bunch of new opportunities.
Eleanor Tabone, WWL, Louisiana.
Three men are in jail after the St. Bernard Sheriff's Office seized a stockpile of fake temporary license plates, forged inspection stickers, and other state documents. As Paul Murphy explains, there are now calls for stricter laws and higher penalties for this type of crime.
St. Bernard Parish deputies say they recovered more than 200 counterfeit and forged Louisiana and Texas Department of Motor Vehicles inspection certificates, Louisiana license plate registration stickers, and blank temporary Louisiana license plates. State OMV Commissioner Dan Casey thanked law enforcement for shutting down this alleged operation.
It's a great day, and I appreciate law enforcement's help in getting these fraudulent counterfeit tags off the street. It's good for our public, good for public safety.
According to documents obtained by WWL Louisiana, deputies discovered the forgery operation while investigating a narcotics case involving 40-year-old Charles Bailey. Investigators say when they went to arrest Bailey at his home in the 9000 block of Virtue Street in Chalmette, they found the fraudulent plates and stickers. Police Chief Keith Conley said some of the fake tags found on vehicles in Kenner and other parts of Jefferson Parish have been traced to St. Bernard.
In Kenner, it's a mandatory arrest unless there's some extenuating circumstances. I think since June 1st, we've probably taken 72 people to jail behind a fraudulent tag.
One neighbor here on Virtue Street told us that if there was an illegal enterprise operating on the block, it was a quiet one.
I never really seen that or seen it in the community or any violence or any drugs or anything like that, so it's kind of shocking.
In addition to Bailey, 54-year-old Albert Allen from New Orleans and 61-year-old Theodore Linares from Poydras were arrested on counts of forgery involving vehicle compliance and registration materials. Both Commissioner Casey and Chief Connolly are now pushing for higher penalties for this sort of crime.
Up the cost of the fine for someone operating with an illegal temp tag. Right now, the fine's only $100.
We're going to have to meet with our state legislatures. We've already done that and take care of this on a state level.
According to law enforcement, behind every fraudulent tag is usually an unlicensed or uninsured driver. Paul Murphy, WWL, Louisiana.
New Orleans remembered a beloved sportscaster who died while covering the Saints at training camp. Ed Daniels covered local sports since 1977 and never missed a Saints training camp. Meg Ferris spoke to the people who knew him best as they celebrated his life.
1,000 people came to say goodbye to WGNO sports director Ed Daniels. He was most remembered for being a pioneer in shining a spotlight on Friday night high school football.
When everybody else thought it was persona non grata to cover high school sports, he saw the vision, he presented it to his ownership. At the time, they kind of laughed about it, much like I did in radio. And I think we proved to people 33, 34 years later that it was a really smart investment.
But it was more than an investment. It was personal for those students, and that touched former Saints quarterback Archie Manning.
My grandson Arch is really affected by this, and I thought about it. It's got to be just hundreds of high school kids who got to know Ed and affected by this. And he wanted me to just tell his family, which I did. I kind of broke up telling them, but to tell them how much Arch was affected by losing Ed.
Former WWL sports director Jim Henderson remembered how Ed poured his heart into the coverage.
You could tell once high school season was getting close, he was always a grinder, and he would grind even harder. there weren't enough hours in the day for Ed Daniels.
Obviously, there's a lot of journalists that cover the professional sports. High school is something that, he gave that voice to here, and look, he deserves his credit.
I talked to a Rommel High School classmate of Ed's who said the very first day of their freshman year, Ed told him, "I'm going to be a sportscaster one day when I grow up." And then he was able to recite statistics well before the internet ever came out. Saints owner Gail Benson was humbled, honored, and emotionally touched that she was asked to help with a medical flight to get Ed back from Saints camp in California to New Orleans after his heart attack.
I don't think I played an important Sorry. I don't think I played an important role. I just did something to help somebody that needed help. And the family called, and I felt like it was important to get him back.
Back to his beloved city for all those he gave a voice to.
Man, you did a feature on me on Friday Night Football in 1995. But the fact of the matter is, you impacted a lot of lives, even when you didn't realize it.
And in the end, that's the way we all should be remembered. Meg Farris, WWL, Louisiana.
Entergy Louisiana is taking steps to harden the grid. Some of the first major projects are happening in Jefferson Parish this week. One of the most noticeable is on Bonneville Boulevard. Lily Cummings takes us there.
From his porch on Bonneville Boulevard, Stephen Dinsdale has a front row view to change.
It's great entertainment, right? And those poor guys working in very hot temperatures, doing a great job.
This week, contractors began replacing old power poles with new infrastructure. According to Entergy Louisiana, they're installing approximately 9 steel poles and 30 wood poles that are designed to withstand 140-mile-an-hour winds, as well as new crossarms, wire, and other equipment.
Entergy Louisiana says the work being done right now along Bonneville Boulevard is part of its resiliency plan. The utility's goal is to replace and harden about 265 poles by the end of the year.
Public Service Commissioner Eric Skrmetta says the work is part of a statewide Entergy Louisiana project with a $1.9 billion price tag. Skrmetta says part of that is replacing 7,000 poles in Jefferson Parish over the next 4 years.
It also puts us in a position to where we take old infrastructure out that is not secured by really money damages to ones that will be, and that if any of these poles come down, Entergy will be responsible for payment back to the ratepayers of approximately $500 a pole if they come down. So it's an effective insurance policy as we move forward into the future.
The utility says it's upgrading infrastructure on these blocks. While the work is being done, Dinsdale and his neighbors don't have power.
Entergy hasn't told me anything. There was no prior advice, no advice that the electricity would be cut off.
And it's slowing down busy Bonneville Boulevard.
To their credit, they're stepping up and they're doing their job. But no, that doesn't matter if you're hot or if you're cold or if you're unhappy. And I am completely sympathetic to that.
Dinsdale agrees a day in the heat is worth the promise of more reliable energy.
I'm glad they're doing the improvement. Yeah, very glad.
In Jefferson Parish, Lily Cummings, WWL Louisiana.
Residents and business owners in Mid-City in New Orleans know the frustration of repeat flooding all too well. Members of Zulu's Social Aid and Pleasure Club are some of them. Now some much-needed money could help protect the organization's headquarters from future damage. Eleanor Tabone explains.
It wasn't just a little water. It was 4 feet.
This was Zulu's headquarters in 2017.
I'm standing here on Broad Street in front of the Zulu Social Aid and Pleasure Club. You can see the water getting inside the building. They tell us about a foot or more of water inside.
And this was the club's HQ in 2009. The building has flooded repeatedly.
For every flooding event outside of Hurricane Katrina, it's documented that this probably took on between 1 and 2 feet of water, probably at as high as 3 feet.
We flooded out. Man, look, we done lost our club, and if you look across the street, our souvenir shop, Both of them are underwater.
Flood damage continually causing problems for the building on Broad Street.
Gut out 4 feet of sheetrock, replaced molding.
Zulu President Elroy James says the constant flooding is running up costs.
Because of the repeated flooding issues that this property has experienced, we also experienced escalated insurance costs, which deprived the organization of limited resources to put back in the community, do our Toys for Tots drive, our basketball giveaway programs, even more our carnival activities.
Just around the corner on Orleans Avenue.
I've had this house for over 20 years.
How many times do you think you've experienced flooding?
In the last what? A couple months or what? Last 2 years, probably close to over half a dozen times.
I spoke to several residents on Orleans Avenue and all of them say they're not strangers to flooding. One person says she lost her car when this roadway flooded. This video shows how high floodwater has been over here. Kelly Jones says when it rains, she moves her truck because they can get 3 feet or more of water.
Sometimes it'll go up to 4, depending on the traffic moving through. It'll push into the house.
As for Zulu's HQ, reprieve is on the way. In 2020, they got $340,000 in FEMA funding to raise the building. Elroy acknowledges it's taken a long time to get through procedural processes.
Had to get FEMA approval regarding architect plans. There were some adjustments that had to be made regarding the plans because this area is designated historical area.
But finally, 4 years later, work is slated to start next month. Eleanor Tabone, WWL, Louisiana.